Hey everybody, it's Jason Creel and this is the Lawn Care Life. Today I'm going to have a special guest and we're talking about Specticle, and I've got a lot of questions that I wanted to know the answer to, and so I'm bringing in a heavy hitter to help us clarify and be better experts on Specticle and how it can help you in your lawn care program. Ignore the chickens in the back. And I got a special guest with me today. It's Tony Culberson, and Tony works with Bayer. And we talk about Specticle Flo, and they also make a granular version, but Specticle comes in these 1 gallon jugs and also in the 18-ounce jugs. And I thought, if I get on here, and I've done videos about Specticle before because I've been using it for the last several years, but I thought, let me get somebody that knows it on a lot more detailed level. And basically the way I'm going to do this, I've got my questions written down, things that I wanted to know about Specticle, how it works, and the best way to use it. And I'm gonna ask Tony and let him, inform us on that. So anyway, thanks Tony. We're gonna do an interview style here. Been doing videos about Specticle for the last 2 or 3 years. Bayer contacted me, wanted me to do a video on Specticle, and Bayer has given me a bottle of Specticle. So this video, I guess you could say, is sponsored by Bayer. All right, Tony, so when I'm thinking about Specticle, what makes it different than like Dimension or Prodami, these other pre-emergents out there? Some people may be new to this, they think, well, isn't a pre-emergent or pre-emergent, but what makes Specticle different?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jason. So Specticle is your newest product, newest active ingredient on the marketplace as far as a pre-emergent. It's been around about 10 years now. It came out in 2010 as a wettable powder. In 2012, we've formulated into a flowable liquid formulation, and that's what Jason showed you a minute ago. But it's with that, given that it is the newest pre-emergent out, it's a very long-lasting pre-emergent. It is colorless. Well, it's not colorless, it's white, but it sprays without a color. So you don't have to worry about staining. You don't have to worry about yellow. You don't have to worry about a smell. It has no smell to it. It's a caution product, so it's very safe. With that, it works really well on poana, it works really well on goose grass, doveweed, it works really well on crabgrass as well in the springtime. So overall, it's a very flexible product. You can use it at many different rates, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But the flexibility of the product as a whole gives it, I think, in combination with its longevity and newest active ingredient to the market, gives it an upside to the other products that are on the marketplace.
All right, next question is, some people, we got people running all different kind of programs. Some people doing 6 apps, 7 apps,
sure,
12
sure.
apps, so like,
Sure.
depending on the number of apps you're doing, it may adjust how many rounds of pre-emergent you can do, whether it be in the fall or spring. So
that's right.
What do y'all think about, what do you recommend as far as Specticle, if you're doing 1 app or 2 apps or 3 apps, and the rates that you recommend, and how does that make it is it more effective to do more apps, or
Sure,
what do you think?
No, and you're right. I mean, and I know I just spoke on flexibility, but Specticle, it can be used at single shot applications, it can be used in split applications, and then you can even use it if you want to do it in 3 different applications. So I know this year we've kind of changed our recommendations a little bit, but you yourself have used 6.5 ounces in a single shot. We also have recommendations of doing 2 4.5 ounces, 45 to 60 days apart. If you live in an area where the soil profile is heavy organic matter, so sand, silt, then we have some options, 3 3-ounce applications per acre. So, Specticle is extremely flexible. Even the grass types can play in a role into your different rates, and obviously, if you're going to run the 3 3s, we would say 30 to 45 days apart. If you run 2 4.5 ounces, 45 to 60 days, and then I know you've mentioned you've done 6.5 yourself. You can even go up to 8 to even to 10. 10 is the single max rate, so that's a very high load, obviously. But you could do that one time in the fall, and obviously we're entering the fall time frame, and get really, really good control on poana.
Tony, this is, I think tomorrow, the day I'm filming this, tomorrow will be the first official day of fall, and it definitely felt like fall this morning, and the weather's nice. But for us lawn care people, when I feel this cool weather, it makes me think about POA starting to germinate. And so one reason, and I'm just talking my own personal standpoint, why I started using Specticles is for POA. I just got tired of pulling up on a yard in February or March and it just being covered. It might be like a thin Bermuda backyard, it's half shaded, but still, I mean, it just looked bad for me as a lawn business owner, and I go out there and they just got POA everywhere, and the customers, you know, and at that point you got to go in there with a post-emergent. So anyways, I kind of went the Specticle route a few years ago, and when people ask me, you know, is it worth it, I said, yeah, for me it has been. So but my question is, you know, like I'm mixing my Specticle and I put simazine in there with it to help if, let's say, I can't get everybody's yard sprayed before the POA germinates. So some of them you're going to need some post activity. So you know, my understanding, you clarify this for me, but like, does the Specticle, does it have post activity on POA, and does it have post activity on other weeds as well, or is it just POA?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, it's going to have some reach back. It's not to the point to where you're going to get 100%. You know, we don't put it on the label as 100% control as far as you're definitely not going to use it as a post product alone. You adding the Specticle is definitely going to, I mean, the simazine to that is definitely going to help. You know, it is one of those, you could get some reach back and get some activity, so it's a nice feature that you can get. You know, the addition of the simazine is going to really help. A recommendation I may add to that is throwing an ounce of tribute total in there, and that's a combination product that we have that's got furansulfuron, thymocarbazole methyl, and halosulfuron methyl. So it's a three-way active product, but you can add an ounce to it and it'll do really well in picking up really small poana. Let's talk a little bit about the addition of the simazine. You know, some of the other chemistry that's out there in the marketplace has resistance issues. You know, maybe prodiamine, or specifically prodiamine has more resistance to poana. But you know, adding that simazine actually helps pick up from a post-emergent perspective. It also throws another active ingredient in there, so it actually helps with the chain of resistance too. And I know we've talked a little bit about Specticle being a new product to the marketplace, even though it's 10 years old. We just want to steward that product for the longevity for as long as we can, and you know, even doing like a 4.5 ounce apps, and then you know, 45 to 60 days apart, and then throwing in a quart of simazine in that, it really does help with a post perspective, but also helps with stewarding that resistant chain or prevention as well. So,
have y'all seen any resistance to POA yet with Specticle?
We have 0 documented cases as of today to poana with Specticle. You know, that's not to say it doesn't come, but you know, Specticle again has been around for a little while now. So, you know, this addition to other active ingredients adding to the tank, you know, really helps prevent that. You know, and some guys may have used Specticle for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you know, and they say, well, I've been doing one single shot, should I rotate to a different chemistry? And you know, our answer is no, you should just add another active ingredient to the tank to help to, you know, for that chain of resistance to not develop. So, because you're already probably doing other chemistry in the spring or maybe early summer, so it's not like you're running the same chemistry spring, fall, and summer.
Yeah.
So
I just had a bonus question came to my mind, but let's say you get some POA in the, you know, February, March, or whatever, in a bermuda or zoysia lawn. What do you recommend as far? Do you go with revolver, Celsius, tribute total? What do you?
I personally recommend tribute total, and you can use revolver. Revolver is actually one of the furansulfuron is actually one of the actives that's in tribute, which is the active in revolver. It's just a higher concentration. So tribute actually just, you know, if you have any product left over, it picks up other weeds. You can use it for other things. It's probably the best single product for a backpack sprayer or even, you know, a ride-on spot application. You know, so it's very versatile, but it does really well as far as on poana for sure.
All right, one of our arch nemesis, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, is Burnweed in the springtime. You know, and you know, it's not hard to kill, obviously, but it's sometimes we tell people it's hard to prevent. And you hear like people say, oh, well, it germinates into thatch, so it's hard for the pre-emergent to work on it. So my question is, you know, and I think I've seen this in my own applications, but is there any, you know, do you feel like one is Burnweed on the label, but like if you do a fall application, or maybe you do a 2 applications, like 2 4.5 ounce applications, does that enough to like help with the Burnweed? Maybe not prevent it altogether, but would you maybe see some reduction in what kind of Burnweed pops up the next March or April?
Yes, my personal recommendation is do the splits, and I think it's because you're kind of spoon feeding that that active ingredient out there. You're right. I think a lot of it does germinate with that. So you're getting a weed that just you can literally easily pull up by your hand. I mean, it's just growing at the very surface of the turf canopy there. So it's the addition to simazine, or if you want to add some Celsius at half rate, Specticle Celsius half rate does a really good combination. But I think for Specticle, from a preventive perspective, running the split rates, the 2 4.5s, does a really good job, because you put it out, say now, and then come back 45, 60 days later, and you're getting, and with the addition of simazine, and it's just kind of getting that active ingredient out there in more of a spoon feed method to some degree. But yeah, you're definitely going to have a great reduction on your burnweed population.
See, the burnweed, the annoying thing about it is just getting a call back, and trying. I think I'm trying to educate my customers on it and stuff like that. But it's just one of them that's just. It's just annoying, I'm out there trying on the spring. I'm busy giving quotes and trying to get yards done. Somebody says, "Oh, my yard looks worse now than when you started," kind of call, and I'm like, "Oh, So anyway, I've seen some improvement. You go out there and ain't mowed the grass in a month. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Right.
Doveweed, I don't know. I told somebody the other day, I think Doveweed is kind of like armadillos. When I was younger, I didn't see them much, but now they kind of moved their way into our area. Now there's armadillos everywhere. Is Doveweed creeping up from the south, or and then if so, because I feel like I saw more this year than I have in a long time, and I don't know if Doveweed and armadillos was the best comparison, but it made sense to me in my head. So anyway. But you got Doveweed, and I don't know, we had here in Alabama, we had a pretty wet spring, so maybe that had something to do with it. And some of these people just won't turn the irrigation off, so that has something to do with it too. But me dealing with Doveweed, and I'm thinking just a few yards that just stay wet and they just covered with Doveweed, and I've went at it from a post standpoint, but I've thought, I want to try to get ahead of it next year and just flag some of these yards. I'm not an area where I'm just covered with it, but like, what would be the recommendation? Again, we're in Birmingham, Alabama market, so I know it's going to be different depending on your geography, but let's say for here, what would I do if I had a couple problems yards for a Doveweed? What the timing and the rate and all that.
Sure. No, you're spot on with Doveweed. It is becoming more of an issue. We're seeing it come up through the south or southern Alabama, or even Florida Panhandle area. I mean, I cover Mississippi, Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, so I mean, it's not just an isolated spot in Birmingham by any means. So it's definitely coming up. I know the guys in the Florida Panhandle area have had really good luck with Specticle. It thrives in a really wet, just mild, warm environment. So like this spring we had, we probably had 30 to 40 inches of rain from January to May, that time frame. So to see Doveweed earlier this year was probably not a surprise. Generally I would say most Doveweed applications could possibly be, if you live in Birmingham, could be in that mid-May to 1st of June time frame. North Alabama, maybe more, maybe June 1st through June 15th time frame. But if you're in the Florida Panhandle, you could be between early May, or even late April. It's one of those things that it's going to be dependent on the weather, I think, as far as when you time your application, because obviously if you have a very mild, wet spring, it's I would say a minimum of 4.5 ounces of Specticle. Ideally, I'd like to see 6 ounces be sprayed. If you want to do 2 3-ounce applications and do one, maybe May 1 and then come back in 45 days and do another 3 ounce, that's definitely going to help to get you to your fall pre-emergent. But you'll see a drastic reduction in the Doveweed population. You still got to post-emergently spray it, because it's a mat. I mean, you have to physically, or not physically, you physically spray it, but you have to get rid of it from a post-emergent perspective. But as far as a preventative measure, Specticle does an awesome job. And you'll significantly reduce that population this year once you spray it out, and then next year if you do it again, that population is even greatly, even more reduced. So it's a program approach. It's not a, you've been in lawn care, application business for a long time. I don't think there's a single application product that you can use to post-emergently control doveweed. So, for us to post-emergently control it, we like Celsius 2 apps. Tribute works well, but it's still a 2 application process. But preventively, Specticle does an awesome job, on it in that mid-May time frame.
Yeah,
so.
And I've seen some of the yards I've been working on it on for the past couple of years. Like one of them in particular, the customer actually texted me. He said, "Yeah, I've noticed a big improvement." Like you're saying, when you get rid of it, some of it one year, the next year there's less. So over time, it should, I'm not saying be gone completely, but it's much improved.
And we don't see a lot of goose grass. I know we're on Doveweed, but dove and goose kind of, you'll see them in a similar time frame. But we don't see a lot of goose in lawn care or in a residential setting. Not saying that it's not there, but you see a lot more goose in sports fields, compacted soil profiles, golf courses, and things of that nature. But if you do struggle with goose in a home lawn situation or a business of any sort, it will drastically reduce that as well.
Now this may be a beginner question, but does goose and doveweed typically germinate later than crabgrass?
Yes, yeah. Crab is going to germinate in that 55, 60 degree weather time frame. So I mean, we're or when it gets above that, it's in the springtime. So it's yeah. I mean, so dove, and then again, if we have a mild spring like we had this year or in 2020, so you're going to see the doveweed come out early. So
I got you. All right, Tony, I got a question about just the amount of water. Like something I know I've been told, like when you put out a fungicide, sometimes you want to have more water volume, but like on Specticle, can you go out there? I spray most of my yards with a tank sprayer at around 2 gallons per 1,000. But let's say, I've also got on spreader sprayers that spray a quart or half gallon per 1,000. Is that okay? And then how soon does it need to be watered in? Is there a risk that if it doesn't get watered in, it's not going to be as effective? Or what's your thoughts on that?
Sure. No, a good question. So you're right. Most lawn care applicators are spraying in 1.5 gallon, 2 gallon, 2.5 gallon, per 1,000 volume of water. It's certainly fine to do that with Specticle. I mean, that's helping it get into the canopy, down through the canopy, and get into the profile better. I've personally talked about these ride-on applicators, these low-volume applicators, and Specticle is labeled to as low as 10 gallons of water per acre. So to use, the Permagreens, the Z-Sprays, the X-Marks, I forget the name of their sprayer, or the Ground Logics, there's all different types of low-volume sprayers. That ride-on application can definitely be used with Specticle. With that, since we're on the low volume applicator, I would say from a rate perspective, I would split your rates, do the 2 4.5 or 3 3s or 2 3s, whatever market you're in with the ride-on applicators, because if you have a 9 ounce per acre rate in there and you accidentally overlap, well, you've got 18 ounces in that one strip, however wide it is. So if you do 2 4.5s or 2 3s, then you don't have your risk of injury is significantly reduced there. Just because you're not doubling up on a rate of that. But as far as watering in Specticle, you can leave it out there for up to 7 days. It's a very flexible material. I'd say in some applications, in some ways, the lawn being mowed, can disturb, disrupting the AI that's on if it hasn't been watered in, bagging the material and taking it off the canopy. But yeah, it's very flexible. It can be up to 7 days. So yeah, and as far as water, the 2 gallon spray volume that most people are using is enough to get it down into the canopy, and that's plenty. And then normal irrigation cycle or light rain. We just don't, and here's one thing I do want to point to, you just want to significantly avoid putting it out prior to heavy rainfall. That's because that is something we don't want, because it can definitely move, into cool season turf if you have that. It can move into beds. that's one thing. You just want to be mindful of weather prior to application, and also you do not want to put it out in saturated soils. So that's if you put it out and the soil profile is saturated, it has nowhere for it to come down and to be absorbed. So I know that's kind of tough when you're in a lawn care, in a business and you're trying to hit these lawns in a kind of a rainy or wet part of the year, but just be mindful. Don't put it out and then have a rain come. Get a heavy flush of rain the next day. So, but yeah, the normal spray volume, 2 gallons per 1,000 is fine. We're great in the low volume applicators.
Thank you. Good information. Okay, so we're talking about different rates, like whether you're going to do 6.5 or 2 4.5s or 3 3s or whatever. But how long? And you talked about earlier about spacing them out depending on your rate. But like, how long does it last when you spray it? How long can you expect to get control?
Sure. No, and we get that asked all the time. Every year, Bear, our Green Solutions team comes up with our programming and just our recommendations and things of that nature. So this year, 6.5. If it's applied between where you and I, are at in Birmingham, September 1st through October 15th, is planned, protection through the month of February. So if it's, almost in some aspects 6 months, if you were to do the 2 4.5s, starting in, the same time frame and then following up 45 to 60 days later with another 4.5 ounce app, you can expect control through April with poana, and then the 3 3s spaced 30 days apart, you can expect very similar through the month of April. And again, I know weather can play a lot into that. So I guess the short answer is up to 6 months. This past 2 years we've had 40 inches of rain here in Birmingham, from the time of application to the spring to when you get another application of pre-emergent out. So we have a very long-lasting pre-emergent, and Bayer really stands behind our product. So it's a very long, effective product. So.
And one thing, and this is a decision I had to make several years ago when I started using Specticle. There are obviously less expensive products on the market, and so I had somebody call me a week or two ago, and they were like, Jason, in your opinion, is Specticle worth the cost of it? And I said, well, I said for me, it definitely. That's why I'm buying it, because. I don't want callbacks in the spring. If my competitors' lawns are looking great and I go out there in the spring and my yards are not looking that great and I've got POA, so it's from that standpoint. And then, like I said, the going out there and having to use a post-emergent to get rid of weeds that you hopefully would have prevented. So for me, it's like time. What's my time worth? Do I have to go back out there? Do I have to get a call back? And then of course I want to be proud of the yards I'm taking care of. I want them looking good. But I know y'all probably get that question a lot. But when people say, "Oh man," because I hear it all the time, like Specticle's great, but it costs this amount of money. So what is kind of the how y'all approach that question?
Well, you're right. Time is money, and it's cheaper to preventively spray something than to post-emergently spray something. So, or at least that's what we've seen. So, since Specticle is a very flexible material with rates, ways of applying it, different timings of the year, things of that nature. So if you were to run 3 3s, with the cost, you're well below $1 a 1,000 type cost. If you were to do, 2 4.5s, you're in that $1 to, $1.20 a 1,000 type time, and if you go 6.5 and up, you're going to get up toward $2 a 1,000 type, cost. But since it is a very effective product, is it worth applying it on the front end versus the time and the energy to come back and post-emergently spray out poana? And I'll tell you, if you miss an area with Specticle, it'll tell on you, because you can, if you skip a spot, it'll leave an area that's untreated, and you obviously will have poana in that area, this time of the year. So, but yeah, I think time is money, and if it's worth it to you and your business to apply it on this time of the year, and not have to go back and spot spray, and your image from a company and from a lawn care perspective is in better shape, then I think it's definitely worth the value there.
All right, last question, unless another one comes to my head, but we're talking about different grass types. I remember I asked you the other day about, I pretty much was mostly using Specticle on my Bermuda and zoysia lawns, and that's 90 probably 90% of my yards. But
Right.
well, you know, I do have some Centipede. I've got some St. Augustine, and I noticed last year or this spring, I was like, man, my Centipede and St. Augustine yards are getting eat up with weeds in the spring. I just wanted to get a better understanding of how to use it on those grass types. One, because you know, I'll be honest, a lot of my competitors don't even deal with those grass types, but I know in some areas they're more coastal. I mean, that's all they have is Centipede and St. Augustine. So what do y'all recommend? I mean, are we supposed to go with a lower rate, or is it just as safe to use on those as it is Bermuda and zoysia? So what's the thought?
Yeah, so I don't know if you do this, I kind of bundle those together if I'm going to apply and treat, you know, Centipede and St. Augustine. We see more Centipede up here, but in the panhandle part of my territory, there's a lot of St. Augustine. So I would say 3 ounces per acre is really good for there. You know, up here in the Birmingham area, central Alabama, you know, 4.5 up to 4.5 ounces. You know, another thing with that is you may have a yard that has partly Bermuda, partly Centipede. You know, call them Heinz 57 yards, but you know, you may have a mixture of different grasses, and so I think the 3 to 4.5 ounce rates does well on those type yards because you don't have to worry about injury. But definitely where the soil profile is heavy sand or silt content, and then more toward the 3 ounce rate. But up here in the heavy clay, then I'd say 4.5. We are labeled up to 6 on Centipede, but I just personally I stick around up to 4.5 for that. So is my suggestion.
All right, I did come up with a bonus question, but and this will make it a 2-part question. But like, sometimes when you're measuring things in small volumes, it can be difficult, especially if you're mixing it in a backpack sprayer. So you showed me the trendy new measuring cup they got, and then I want you to also comment while we're doing that. Like, I didn't know that people were using Specticle as much. I know that you got the Specticle G, and that's used a lot in the flower beds and stuff. But talk about, you know, the people using the Specticle Flo. Because I'm saying if you're going to mix it in a big tank sprayer, you can use like a larger measuring cup, no problem. But if you start mixing smaller quantities, it does become a little tricky. So if you're mixing in a backpack sprayer, one, you know, how are people using that for like beds and things like that? And then show them the measuring cup and how they can measure it out better.
So that was one of the things that I was running into just out in the field is you know, you'd have guys that or ladies as well, you know, trying to mix Specticle in a low 3 to 6 ounces or whatever the rate was that they were wanting to use, you know, per acre, and they were using these you know, pint to quart to half-gallon type pitchers, and it's, you know, the first, you know, little measurement is like is an 8 almost, you know. So you know, Bear came out with these. These are some 8-ounce small pitchers, and as you can see, they're numbered from 1 to 8. You have half ounce increments here. So these are really nice as far as dialing in specific, and for the ride-on applicators, this is ideal. This is perfect for those, because this really, you know, you're spraying 3 ounces per acre or 4.5 ounces per acre. I mean, you can get pretty precise with this. So this is something that I'm glad to see that we have. They're not. We don't have them yet in our cases, but I can get you any of these, and any of the other Bear reps can get them as well. So, but as far as for small measurements, you have this, and then on the inside of the 18-ounce bottle, the cap actually has some half-ounce increments inside the cap. So that's a nice feature as far as the cap can actually be used as a measurement for backpacks.
You know, if people are putting in a backpack, are they using it like Specticle on driveways or gravel parking lots or in flower beds, or how do they use it for that?
Specticle can be tank mixed with glyphosate or Roundup. You know, it can be added, this diquat can be added to it. But yeah, gravel, pine straw beds, mulch beds, it can be sprayed. You know, obviously if you're mixing it with glyphosate, it just, you know, treat it like glyphosate and spray around plant material. But you know, with Specticle Flowable by itself, definitely do not apply over the top of plant material, but around. We have about 12 plants or so that are on our list to not use Specticle with the Specticle G. You know, hydrangeas can be sensitive, viburnums can be sensitive, but as far as around plant material, it's very safe. You know, azaleas, common plant materials, you know, Loropetalum, Indian hawthorns, you know, hollies, roses, things of that nature are fine. So, but yeah, it can be used in and around all different types of things, in cracks and crevices in concrete. Again, it's called, it doesn't have you don't have to worry about a yellow stain, and there's no smell. So
appreciate Tony being with us. I knew if I got one of the product reps on here, they'd be able to talk about it in a lot more detail than I would. So Tony, thanks for coming on and for all the information. And guys, I'd encourage you, if you're watching the video and you got a comment, do you enjoy this kind of video? Let me hear from you in the comments. Tell me that you enjoyed it, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. And if you got another question, just put it in the comments below. Maybe somebody will be able to help you out. But I thought this was very helpful, and love to get your feedback if you watched it and what you think about these kind of videos.
Jason, thank you for allowing me to come on today and talk about Specticle. So, and thank you for watching.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you guys later. Bye.